Hey everybody, welcome to GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cubed, and I am damn well one of the owners of the Kokomo Con.
What's with the cursing?
Somebody tried to step on my toes.
Oh, on your Kokomo Con toe?
I
forgot about that.
I had to regulate a little bit on that. Had to call some people. Things had to get done, and it got done. So this week's a big week. We got me and the original Mike Harrison back here at the table. We're going to be talking about some San Diego Hall H Marvel love. We're going to be talking about the tragic death of Rutger Hauer. We're going to be talking about a brand new video game coming to see you, as well as, I believe Mike read a comic book.
I did.
Holy cow. But first and foremost, I think we gotta talk about the passing of Rutger Hauer. I said tragic.
Yeah.
That was tragic in the sense that I, as a fan, feel this, but he was 75 years old. He wasn't a young man, and as Indiana Jones said, it's not about the age, it's about the mileage. And he was a star during the 80s.
Sure.
So I'm sure that at one point Rutger was living the rock star life.
Right.
What is your favorite Rutger Hauer film?
Probably because it's the first one I noticed him in, and was The Hitcher, and that was also during the time of like the VHS explosion and everything, where things just jumped off, and that movie maybe made, I'm guessing it made $500,000 in the theater.
Tree fitting.
So there you go. But then once it hit VHS, then it became a juggernaut, and it was one of those things. Oh, you got to see this, and word of mouth.
Love Rutger Hauer. I've never seen The Hitcher.
Oh, no kidding.
I haven't.
Oh,
I love him.
And I don't know that you'll appreciate it now, because it was just that. It's psychological horror.
Sure.
It's not like.
I'm definitely gonna go back now and make an effort to try and see almost everything.
But that's my
because I didn't know that went to the theater. I kind of thought that was a direct-to-video kind of a thing. It might have been.
I don't think they made direct-to-video that early in the days of video. I think things just went.
He was one of the pioneers of that low-budget. I want to say direct-to-video, but I got a feeling it was a deal where we're going to the theater, we're going to blah blah blah, and then people saw it, and the backers like, yeah, no, you're not. You're going straight to video. But he became one of the kings of it. He had big breakout parts in Lady Hawk, and probably most well known for Blade Runner. And then later years, we had him in Buffy, the actual movie, not the series that made it really blew it out, but kind of the mediocre movie. Him and was it Paul Rubens?
He was in it.
He was like this henchman. And then the last things I can remember him in, he was in Sin City. As like an evil preacher or something of that nature. I believe he was like an evil preacher, something of that nature.
Well, you're doing him a disservice by completely glossing over Hobo with a Shotgun.
I don't know why. That might have been the last thing. But yeah, I love him from Lady Hawk. That's kind of my thing with him. And there was a time in geekdom before we had Hall H at San Diego announcing 20 different things, and there was nothing. You know, we were lucky if there was one Saturday morning cartoon on. But Wizard Magazine got us all started in casting. And so back then it was completely like fantasy. None of this was ever going to happen. And you would cast stuff. And in my head, and you remember back in the days because we did it in the car all the time. Rutger Hauer got cast as like damn near everything for me.
He was like, he looked like Magneto.
I had him as Magneto.
That was
absolutely.
the thing I think a lot of people jumped on.
I would love but that would also have been him back in the 80s or the early 90s, you know.
He had blondish, so he had like that platinum hair.
Anyway. Oh, he would have pulled it off.
Yeah.
So
was he the bad guy in Nighthawks with Stallone?
Wouldn't shock me, but I don't know that for a fact.
So. Nighthawks and maybe Billy D. Williams, I think was the other guy in Nighthawks, but I feel like he was the bad guy in Nighthawks.
Gotcha. So you know what? Take some time this week and catch a Rutger Hauer film and remember one of the great, I don't want to say he was a geek actor, but he was kind of that guy that I think, you know,
thank you. I think
meant a lot
one of the first big genre guys that was like, oh, I know that guy. You know, one of those, a breakout guy. You know,
Blade Runner is classic, but for me, as I said,
what was one where he's a blind samurai?
Oh, I don't know.
Remember?
I don't
Maybe
remember.
not samurai because he was modern clothing, but it was he
was that Otherworld?
He was blind with a sword. I know that.
There's one where he's like a walker between worlds kind of thing in Dimension. There's so many.
So many Rutger Hauers.
I'm going to have to just put the Rutger Hauer list together. So, that's going on.
Yeah.
Something I don't think you care about, so we'll just throw it out there real quick.
Oh, good. Blind Fury.
Arcade 1-Up. These are the guys that are producing the 1/4 sized arcade machines that you would have seen in the old arcades back in the day.
Right.
They're popping up in Walmart. Best Buy's got exclusive.
Arcade 1-Up.
Target's had them. And so they're quarter-size machine. They've just announced that they're taking their pre-orders on their newest machine. It's the original 70s Star Wars arcade machine.
Oh, wow.
So the Matrix kind of graphics, the green and all that, and doing the trench run and TIE fighters and Obi-Wan telling you to stay on target or something like that, and focus, use the Force, and one of my all-time favorite video games.
It's great. I remember
back in the day.
The Stop and Go on Boulevard.
In Kokomo, Indiana?
In Kokomo here, had that game, and I would ride my bike probably a mile and a half to go and play that game quite a bit.
We had one on Markland in a laundromat, and the laundromat's still there.
Yeah.
And if it's one of those things that I have a fond memory. We lived pretty close to that laundromat, and I would walk or bike over, and I would take my $1.50 or whatever back when a video game actually only cost $0.25. And get my 3 or 4 minutes of playtime before I was dead.
Speaking of coin ops, my buddy Greg Noling, who lives in Indianapolis and is a teacher there, he got a write-up on StarTrek.com because he has he's a prop builder and has been since probably 20, 30 years. But he made a full, complete Last Starfighter
video game?
coin op game. Yeah. He did that, and but he's done tons of things. He's done a PB bike, like you said, Ruben's earlier. He's done a full PB bike that travels around and goes to different shows. And
really, he's your buddy?
Yeah.
But it's never been to the Kokomo Con?
I think he has.
Well, the bike's never been to the Kokomo Con.
Oh, I'll talk to him about it.
I'll give him a booth. He can set up and show off the booth.
Because you know what he does? He goes to conventions, collects donations, and then sells them for charity.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'll talk to him about it.
Absolutely, would love to have.
But it was cool little write-up about him being a prop maker, and he's got this awesome studio thing that he made up, and he's done a ton of stuff.
A stand-up Starfighter game, that'd be.
It's awesome.
Yeah, or is it a sit-down?
No.
A cockpit
No.
kind of thing? Oh, so it's just.
It's original. It's like.
Oh, it's the one like you saw him play.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I would have taken that a step further to make like a sit-down, like a little cockpit kind of a thing for it, like they did. Because that Star Wars game had that. They had the stand-up, but they also had a sit-down version.
The Stop and Go was a sit-down.
So, was it? Oh, my gas station was a stand-up.
Sorry, buddy.
You're lucky. Oh, that
What's
immersion. The immersion, it was there for you.
It was.
That's awesome.
Full
Did you stay on target?
Always. Yeah, I remember that.
Love that stuff. All right, so what you've been waiting for, and I don't know why you've been waiting for it, because it's this YouTube videos out for all of this stuff everywhere. Everybody has already discussed it. People much more in the know and more important than us. But
no,
you're here,
not me.
so you came to hear what we had to say. So, San Diego Comic-Con, Hall H, Marvel, Kevin Feige, who is the overall headmaster of the Hogwarts Express of Marvel. He just came out and just tsunami'd
This is something I didn't think we were going to see again. I didn't think we were going to see a big phase announcement like we did previously, specifically just because the last time we did it, we threw up the Inhumans movie up there, and then that didn't happen. They kind of bit them in the rear. So I didn't think it, but this was a much smaller phase than this wasn't 5 years out. This is 2 years, okay? And not including 19. It was just specifically for 20 and 21. This is phase 4. This is what we're doing.
Just 2 years, and how many projects?
Oh, geez, it was like
now they
7
did
or 8.
include the
8.
Disney Plus material, which is going to be on the Disney Channel.
Yeah, it did.
So it's not just the movies going to the theater.
6.
It is going to also include, I think, 4 different television series as well. But 3 out of those 4 television series directly impact the Marvel Cinematic Universe, featuring characters and actors directly from their roles in those universes.
Right.
So pretty exciting stuff. So out of it, we had a ton of announcements. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Man, the one that I'm most excited about is probably the What If. It's a cartoon. It's animated. And they just they showed a list, or they showed a graphic of all the actors from the MCU, from the theater releases, that are going to do the voices for the What If series. And if you don't know, we've talked about it before, but What If is it's just you take a, hey, what if Sean didn't show up today? What would happen? And,
well, like in Endgame, what if Tony didn't manipulate Thanos's thing?
And they're usually pivotal moments in Marvel history. What if in the first Infinity War, what if Thor had gone for the head? How would things have been different moving forward? So people have been throwing out what are their favorite what ifs, and we've talked about that before too.
Love that series.
But it's basically an Elseworlds, if you will, story. They'll be self-contained. They don't really affect the Marvel universe going forward. It's the Jeffrey Wright is the voice, and he's awesome. He's got that James Earl Jones kind of gravitas in his voice, and
is he going to be narrating documentaries in the near future?
Maybe.
We're all going to be doing that.
He's the voice of the Watcher.
The thing that I've always loved about the What If comics is they were typically more in depth than a standard comic. They also had much more dark and bleak outcomes because it was a one shot.
Yes.
And it didn't affect anything. They would, this guy would be the Rod Serling and say, instead of, if Captain America hadn't ditched the plane in the Arctic and hadn't got buried in the ice, what would have happened? And this, unlike regular comics where we have to have the happy ending or at least a continuation, these sometimes got dark, and it might have been like Cap after the war, fell on hard times and was displeased and had, PTSD or something. Just they could do, characters could die.
Yeah, they weren't constrained by issue number 2.
Yes.
They weren't constrained by what do we do moving forward. They just, I'm going to tell the story. This is a horrible thing that would happen, and to make it gotcha, they would often kill a character.
Sometimes they were good, and sometimes there were happy endings, but there was probably more kind of dark, cynical kind of things with, I said, Rod Serling Twilight Zone, like twists would occur or other things like that. If you have never read the What If series, you really should check it out. There's been multiple runs, but there was 2 long runs. There's the original run, and then there was a 90s run that went on for a really long time. I love the original run because that original run really touched on some of the most iconic elements. The 90s run had to then kind of pick stuff around the elements that had already been done and then deal with more current elements. Jeez, that's loud.
It's the Avengers.
Holy cow.
Holy crap. What do you look excited about on that list?
Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings.
Yeah.
I am a big Shang-Chi fan. I've enjoyed the Marvel Asian exploitation stuff of the 70s for a long time. They don't like to call it that. You had the blaxploitation thing.
Right.
And so for the 70s and into the early 80s, it was your kung fu craze, and in the 80s we had the ninja craze. I've always loved that stuff. I don't know why. It's always appealed to me. I'm not into martial arts. I don't have my purple belt in pick something. I don't know anything about
You're being very specific.
any of that kind of stuff, but I've enjoyed those characters quite a bit. Shang-Chi being one of the key figures. Iron Fist might be my favorite. Shang-Chi's number 2. I was obviously so let down with what's been done with Iron Fist that I don't know. But yeah, Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. We're going to get the real Mandarin now. He's been cast. Excited about that. The guy they've got playing Shang-Chi looks great. And people on Netflix will recognize him from a Canadian sitcom dramedy called like Mr. Kim's Convenience or Kim's Convenience, something like that. And I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes because I've got a rule, I'll watch any one episode of one anything. And so I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. And I ended up watching, I think, 2. And he plays like the estranged son, but he's got, one, everybody involved appears to be Asian, which, good. It's Shang-Chi. I don't want to deal with, whatever. Don't pick any race. I don't care what it is. Russian Shang-Chi or something. One of the changes I think we're seeing, and I think it's a done deal, in the comic books, they used Fu Manchu. Fu Manchu was the father of Shang-Chi, and Shang-Chi was raised from birth up until the comics start as a pawn of Fu Manchu and his evil deeds.
Okay.
The entire time being brainwashed into thinking that Fu Manchu is this benevolent force out to save the world.
Right.
And so in the very first book, Shang-Chi goes out and like assassinates a good guy under the orders of his father, who's brainwashed him into thinking that he is the ultimate evil. And in fact, he was the guy that was standing off against him. So Sax Rohmer, who is an English author, is the creator
You're going deep.
of Fu Manchu. And Marvel got the rights for a while, but lost the rights.
Oh, okay.
And it's one of those weird situations in the United States. Fu Manchu is in the public domain. But in England, where Sax Rohmer was a resident, he is not in the public domain. So it creates all kinds of issues.
Right.
So I believe that, long story short,
We're going to see the
Mandarin will step in as the linchpin, be the father figure, which is a Marvel creation and is, you know, he's pretty much perfect for what they've got set up, and I'm happily able to accept it.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that. The Ten Rings thing has been talked about since the very first Marvel movie. It's mentioned in Iron Man, and then pops up again in Iron Man 3.
Right.
So we have been teased. This might be the longest tease of all that kind of stuff, and we're going to finally get payoff for that. So
you're talking about you know, not having Russian actors play the Asian parts, and it even went more specifically than that, and smartly so. Like when the announcement was first made, they were that this was probably going to be on the slate at some point. People started, you know, fan casting like they do, and one of the names that came up was Mike Moe, and he's the guy who's playing right now. He's playing Bruce Lee in the Tarantino movie.
Okay.
And so that would because he looks perfect. He's great, and he's a real martial artist, and I was one of those people who said, yeah, he's the guy, but he's not Chinese. And so
what is he?
I don't know. He's either Korean or Japanese. I'm not really sure. I can't say.
That doesn't bother me.
So Marvel's got to think, okay, we're going to make a movie that is Asian centric, but it's also we're making it for the largest audience in the world too. So we need to make this guy a Chinese guy to play the Chinese character, and so that's what they did.
People, you know, people are going to talk.
Sure.
They're going to flap their gums. But the truth is the Asian market for these movies is what's getting them to that $2 billion mark.
Yeah.
It's what's getting movies to that $1 billion mark now. Yeah. It is what is making it so that you are seeing, like the Transformers movie, where a good chunk of it was set in China. Yeah. It is also why you see in the new Top Gun movie why Maverick's jacket doesn't have the Chinese and the Taiwan flag on it anymore from the original. Those have been altered to make sure that audience isn't going to be offended by these sorts of things.
We, in the United States, we so much think that everything revolves around us, and it really doesn't. If anything, most of the time on these big budget movies, the U.S. audience pays for the movie. And then when it goes worldwide, that's all your real profit. We're just not as important as we like to think we are. So real quickly, just we're not going to comment on every one, but you start out with Black Widow in May of 2020.
Said about it. We get Hopper from Stranger Things coming in as a big part of that.
Don't know what he is
They
yet.
said what he was.
Did they?
Oh yeah, he's like the director kind of guy.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they said they've named him. I think they named him on the stage.
That's good because I was glad that he's not Taskmaster. Excuse me.
No, he's definitely not. He's like a Russian guy that.
And Feige also said it's not. He didn't say it's not set in the 90s. What he did say is at least some of it takes place after Civil War and also deals with Budapest, which we've heard about forever and ever.
You have a very different idea of what happened in Budapest than I do.
So we got that. Next up, chronologically anyways, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Looking forward to it, and I like the little thing. Mackie took into account, they came on stage with Mackie and Sebastian.
Right.
And obviously, it's kind of Mackie. People wanted Bucky to get to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
And some people have been just really, really mean about it. That's one of the things about social media is just the whole trolling and whatnot.
Right.
It just a lot of times it just allows you to be a mean or be an asshole.
Right.
And there's no reason for it.
Right.
So he comes out with the shield in hand and then offers it to Stan and then takes it back from him.
How's it feel? Good? Let me have that back.
Yeah. So I thought that was great interaction. And those two have great chemistry together.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do. They
really,
have since Civil War. You knew. I think people said as soon as that movie came out, they're like, I want to see a buddy thing with those two. That would be awesome.
Disney, listen, because we're going to get it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Next up in the fall next year, you've got the Eternals. That they had the whole cast there for that.
Man,
everybody that had been announced anyway. They still haven't cast or at least announced the lead male. But you got Angelina Jolie. You've got
Salma Hayek.
The guy
Jamal Kinnear,
the actor
something of that nature.
From Game of Thrones actor, I can't think of his name, that played Rob Snow.
Guy from Stuber, Jamal or whatever.
Yeah.
Love him.
Huge, and he's a huge geek too.
He's so funny.
Yeah, he's very funny.
He is absolutely. And I hate that me. The thing is, it doesn't matter that his name is whatever. I wasn't going to remember if it had been Bob.
Right.
I'm horrible with names. But I actually went and saw Stuber because of him. Because he's just.
Kumail Nanjiani. Does that sound right?
It does sound right.
If I pull that out, I need a.
That's pretty good.
I need a cookie. I'm just
that might be close.
I'm telling you right
but
now.
either way, I enjoy his work. I loved him on Franklin and Bash. He is the actor right now that if he's in something, they'll get my money. I will go to a movie
he's
just
in
to
the
see
first episode
him.
of the new Twilight Zone.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not seen, but that's all CBS Access.
Yes. Yeah.
So once I get somebody to hook me up with a little, something, I'll be watching
next
all
up is
that.
Shang-Chi, which we've already talked about.
Love it.
The one after that is WandaVision. That's probably the one we know least about.
Yeah, and I gotta say, for me,
I don't know.
I mean, if it's on Disney Plus, gonna watch it.
Right.
But yeah, they didn't get enough screen time to really get them going yet. And then I think that probably for the best interest there is Paul Bettany's character was toasted.
Right.
There is no more soul gem for him to have.
Right.
It's gone. So I don't know. I mean, downloading the android's brain into some Tony thing, that I could see doing it. But how do you get without the soul gem? How do you get him back? So I'll be very interested to see how that goes.
Next up for that is the Loki series. And
people freaked out because one, it was Tom Hiddleston coming out,
right.
Not some little kid that the rumors have been. But the way they portrayed it made it sound. This was a Tom Hiddleston series.
Yes.
It was not going to be him just as a narrator in the background doing the Indiana Jones movie, kind of thing.
He'd be crazy to say no to that anyway. I would think, put me in it as much as you can.
Sure. Did anybody get a bigger pop, do you think, on that stage?
Probably not.
Even Angelina Jolie, I don't think, got the pop that he did.
He's made his San Diego appearances an event, and so it's...
I kind of wish they'd done it again. I almost wish he'd come out and done it again. But also, going back a little bit, is it David Barber? What's Hopper's name?
David Harbour.
David Harbour. He, I don't know that he didn't get a bigger pop than Black Widow herself.
Maybe, I don't know.
Scarlett Johansson got a good pop, but I'll tell you, then again, coming straight off of Stranger Things. I mean,
that's a huge hit.
Woo!
There's a lot of Stranger Things fans.
So, especially at that show.
Next up is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And there's a little hiccup there in that when Marvel starts getting these things into real form where it's concrete, they'll go and they'll reserve the IP, on the internet. And one article I read said they accidentally and or purposely got Madness of the Multiverse instead of Multiverse of Madness. So I don't know which it's supposed to be, but it's one of those two right there. Okay. But also we'll have Scarlet Witch in it. Will be I don't know if it's a buddy thing, but she's supposed to play a prominent role in the movie.
And the big talk there that I think the takeaway from this, because we're getting all these cool movies, is that it's supposed to be a horror movie.
Right, that's what they said.
There was elements of the first movie that were horrific, but it wasn't a horror movie.
Right.
This one is going to be what we were supposed to see probably with the New Mutants.
New Mutants, right.
That I don't think we're seeing.
Right.
I think that X-Men bombed so badly.
It was awful.
That was a bigger budget, more well-known set piece, and the New Mutants movie, that might be saved for Disney Plus as a Saturday afternoon matinee kind of a thing.
Maybe.
It's just not worth it.
It could be a special live-action What If.
But the horror element, I think, is going to excite a lot of us, especially with those characters.
Right, yeah.
But it also means that Olsen is coming off of Endgame, going into her own series, and then getting another shot at the big screen.
She's
so
busy.
She's doing pretty well. Good for her.
Yeah. Next up is What If. We talked about that.
Love What If.
One after that is Hawkeye. We are getting a Kate Bishop, but it is also Jeremy Renner as well. So we're going to see them both in there.
It's going to be interesting about it. One, love Hawkeye, but I also love Kate Bishop Hawkeye. She is amazing. And the thing that makes that so good is their interaction and chemistry together. Whoever they get has got to have amazing chemistry with Jeremy Renner. And the thing is, and this is what I like about this so much, is it's not romantic. It's not their friends.
Right.
He is a much older friend,
He's
and
mentor.
she is kind of a kid, but then it's more of a buddy mentor. It's not like Mr. Miyagi, like wise.
Right.
Clint's a moron. And
you're talking about the Fraction Run, right?
Yes.
Okay, so was Kate Bishop introduced in the Fraction Run?
She was introduced in a book called Young Avengers #1, which is already skyrocketing.
Okay.
Has been for even before this was announced. I was able to luckily pick one up myself before this announcement. After this announcement, I imagine Avengers #1 is going to be huge. And then she was introduced, and then I think around issue 10 or something, she actually takes on the Hawkeye mantle after he had died in the books for a while. And then eventually they come back, they meet up, and they become like this buddy team. And they are both Hawkeye. There's no Lady Hawkeye. There's no little Hawkeye. And he makes sure that that's not a big deal. He does not care. But the way they portray it is Clint is like the greatest shot in the world with pretty much anything you give him. Him and Bullseye could go round and round and have a good time. And she's really, really good. She's not quite
Hawkeye good.
I mean, he's been doing this a lot longer. She could easily, over time, mature into that. But as I said, it's the chemistry, the sarcasm.
She's not
the
Hawkeye
wit.
good. She's more like Green Arrow.
Yeah. Go with that.
Rounding out Phase 4 is Thor: Love and Thunder. Even the logo looks super 70s-ish, like they capitalized with Ragnarok. I imagine we're going to get more of that same vibe. The great news is Taika Waititi is going to come back and do the movie.
Is there a more rock star director?
I don't know.
He walked out on that stage like he owned. I mean, he came out like he was a Tom Hiddleston or something. All the other directors are like, I'm just really excited to be a part of them. He's air guitaring and just like head banging. He's like, yeah, that's right. I do Thor. I'm the Thor guy. I'm the one. How you doing?
All right.
And it was just awesome.
It was good. What we know about it is, they brought back in Jane Foster, which she was
Natalie Portman. Didn't recast her.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. She only did I know she had scenes in Endgame.
I feel that those were canned from other things.
They are. She only did for Endgame some voice work, and that's it.
Okay.
They used older scenes or other scenes from Thor 2 for that. So.
Okay. So the background on this is, and I didn't know this until just recently, they had another director. I think it might have been the director who did Wonder Woman. I'm not sure. They had a female director lined up to do the second Thor movie, the Dark Elf movie.
Oh, okay.
And it fell apart.
Okay.
And Portman was a big fan, big supporter, and when that fell apart,
I remember reading that.
So did her relationship with the thing. And that's why she basically never showed up in Thor 3.
Right.
But now I'm curious as to how they got her back, other than going, oh, by the way, here's a ton of money, and you're going to end up having the hammer and becoming Thor.
Here's one thing, and I obviously don't know any more about her than you or anybody else, but she was in Star Wars, okay?
Yes.
Giant thing, consumed her life for many, many years. Then she can go and finally do some serious acting after that.
And
she did in Black Swan. She maybe got an Academy Award for that, I think. I know there was a nomination. But she doesn't work a lot, okay? So is that her choice or not? And here we are, you were in this big thing and we're going to make it bigger. Do you want to go and do it again? She didn't look super excited on the stage. She didn't look like she was embracing. She was smiling and she looked very, almost timid to me.
I think that she's just not knowing, just completely just spitballing. I think she's just a more reserved
that may be true.
kind of person. I don't think that she's...
I know she's super intelligent. I know she's...
Harvard?
Yeah.
I don't want to insult her. If you get the wrong school, these alumni can get really upset. But I mean, yeah, she did the Star Wars thing, made her money, and I would imagine that the royalties and everything from that set for life.
Sure.
And she's done good stuff. In fact, I would go so far as to say, out of all the people in there who weren't established, she probably has the best career. The only one that would even come close would be Ewan McGregor, and he works
whatever he wants to.
He does.
He rides motorcycles across Europe.
I gotta say, he wants to ride motorcycles in Africa. That's what he does.
Whatever
he does. But that's the kind of money that a Star Wars role like that, I think, provides you. Is you know what? Do you want to ride motorcycles in Antarctica? Yes, I do this week. Can that happen?
Yes.
Well, it can for your kind of money.
It definitely provides all the opportunity you want. Now, whether or not you capitalize on that, or whether or not you earn opportunity after opportunity, that's up to you.
And we've seen it go the opposite way with that.
Sure. You don't see Hayden Christian at all.
No. Or the young kid. Okay.
Yeah. So not doing great. So anyway, okay. So that's all of Phase 4 we saw. People were surprised we didn't see anything about Spider-Man, but you know what? Spider-Man is still in theaters right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we don't have to talk about it.
The only hurdle there that we just got this week was this current Spider-Man crossed $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Now that's important because number one, it's the first Spider-Man movie to ever do that, but also it fulfills the monetary contract with Sony and Marvel, so that Marvel still has Marvel will still be doing Spidey 3. Okay, if not, if it had made $999 million, Sony could say, well, we're not crazy. Would they be stupid to do this? But they could say, well, we're not crazy about what you're doing, Marvel, so we're going to take full rights back and just produce our own thing.
Basically, Marvel makes it and Sony distributes it and gets the money.
Yes.
But Marvel out of this is getting the fact that they're controlling the character's look.
Yes.
They're controlling his crossover stuff with them.
Yes.
And Sony would be
it's win-win.
stupid.
It's win-win, Sony. There's no reason not to just do this forever, perpetually.
I wouldn't even billion whatever.
It's the best of both worlds.
Just do it.
Yeah. So that happened, and who knows what we'll get in the next movie, but.
I mean, it's still in theaters. They're not filming anything. I don't even know their scripts yet. So
no.
This is only the 2 years out. I don't expect another Spider-Man movie within 2 years.
No.
3 at the max. 4 is probably more likely, especially with that particular actor at this point. You got to think he's getting a ton of roles thrown at him. I would imagine that there's a dozen scripts being sent to his agent every day.
Yeah.
So love that stuff.
Yeah. Then we've got a bunch of little notes here just to wrap it up. Robert Redford is has signed to be in the Watchmen series, which is coming on HBO pretty soon.
As president?
Yes, I guess he's president in the comics. I don't remember that being the case, but that's what they said anyway. And so
but he's Robert Redford.
He's Robert Redford.
Like, not just the actor.
He plays himself.
Robert Redford
president.
is Robert Redford, the president of the United States.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yes. Crisis. Whether or not you watch all the WB shows. They're showing me too much, okay? They're showing me too much about what they're doing in this awesome crossover. We're going to go halfway through the season.
5 parts.
Okay? And it's going to be partially in before the Christmas break and partially after the Christmas break. Okay?
Oh, wow.
But they're giving away all the cool stuff, all the cameos and who characters are going to be and whatnot. Brandon Routh is going to reprise his role as Superman, which is awesome. But then they went ahead and told us that it's Kingdom Come Superman. It's not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which
you ruined that for me. Thanks.
Exactly. See, now you feel like I do.
I didn't
and they said 2 or 3 other things that I've tried to forget and I don't even remember.
Man, I love Brandon Routh, and I really liked him as Superman in the movie. Mm-hmm. Brandon Routh didn't screw up Superman Returns. Superman Returns was screwed up by mediocre scripts, and really Kevin Spacey didn't bring anything.
He was a good Superman,
as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I would have happily watched another Superman. With him, but he's a more benevolent figure, and the Kingdom Come Superman is an older, harder edged kind of. He's the gritty version, as I recall from my reading of Mark Waid and Alex Ross's Kingdom Come. But so that'll be interesting.
Then finally, very quickly, we will talk comic real quick since Sean needs to make $1.
Dollar bill, Joe.
I read the first issue of House of X, which is a big. New X-Men rollout.
Yes, brand new first issue by Jason Aaron, who's a big name in the Marvel writing community. He's spearheaded some of their big event books, and so they're relaunching the X books with a weekly thing with House of X and Power of X and House. So I think you're gonna get 6 issues of each of these. So you haven't read you've read comics all your life, but you don't read as much as you used to.
I'm not a regular reader.
What did you think? Because one, I'm sure you don't know a damn thing about the X-Men anymore.
I don't. Okay. And like page 3, you've got Marvel Girl there. Okay.
Yes.
Now
where did she come from?
Yeah, I remember specifically something maybe 4 or 5 years ago how they brought that whole team back, but I don't know as of now. I don't know who's around and who's dead and who's what. So here's the thing I liked about this particular book. Since they're using it as a jumping off point, they didn't do the classic 90s Jim Shooter thing where they have to spend a page or 2 telling you this is what you missed and that type of stuff. That's not around anymore. But what they did is they told story, then they took a page of text and said this is what's going on and why. Then story, then a page of text, kind of like giving you an intelligence briefing.
Yes.
And I appreciated that because it was story.
And it looked cool too.
Yeah, it was catching you up. So I liked it. And
there's codes in there.
Yes. I'm sure there is.
I didn't bother to try to figure out the code.
Yeah, because there's like a mutant language.
Yeah, and it's coded. You could tell it was repeating symbols. So,
but it's basically the very basic premise of it is mutants have decided, okay, you did this kind of a genocide thing with us in Genosha, okay, and because you thought we were going to take over Homo sapiens and we were going to take over the world. Well, not only did that not really work, it only set us back a few years, but actually there are more mutants coming out than even you thought there were. You have 20 years, and before we could take the planet over. We're not going to do that. All we're asking is that you recognize this little island, Krakoa. This is our island. We're a country. We're a people. We have a culture. Recognize that, and we'll give you some life-saving drugs.
Yes.
But just do that, and we won't take over the world. They don't say that, but that's what's implied, okay?
So yeah, they come out and they're like, it turns out, because at first it's funny, they have, next week we get a promotional item. And they talked about this promotional item. I had no clue why. They were sending out seed packets as a promotional item. I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with the X-Men?
Right.
Well, it turns out Krakoa is a living, sentient plant-like creature. And
it's
so
an big island though.
So yeah, but we didn't know clue that that's what this was about. At least I didn't.
Right.
So what they do is they take portions of Krakoa and they plant it all around the world and even outside of our world, and it creates a portal between all of these Krakoas. So you can go into Krakoa, Philadelphia, and end up on Krakoa, the moon.
Right.
As long as you know where you're going and how it all works, it's a transport system. So that part was pretty cool. But then the element of, we're not going to come at you with the stick, we're going to offer you the carrot, is recognize us as a independent state, a country free and get all the UN type stuff, and we'll give you 3 drugs. We're going to make it so that all humans will live 5 years longer. Flat out, period, as long as you know, not tragic, weird stuff. We're also going to give you a drug that's going to deal with mental stuff.
Mental illness.
Mental illness. Boom, done. And I can't remember what the third one was. But basically, there was 3 drugs like that. They were all big enough that they were going to have
it was an antibiotic.
Oh, a super antibiotic. That, yeah, so 3 big drugs that would change and revolutionize the world, but not change it to the point where the change is so drastic and so over the top. You know, we're not making you immortal. We didn't give you a superpower.
They're just benevolent.
But 5 years extra on a human life, a super antibiotic, and a mental thing, all big deals. And all you got to do is say yes, and we give it to you. And that was all good.
And leave us alone.
And leave us alone. You know what? Don't start some. There won't be none.
That's right.
But then that ending.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it, but that was, one, you throw Magneto out as your ambassador.
Right.
And that's always a bad sign.
Sure.
When you show up with a bunch of ambassadors from around the world who are going to discuss whether they're going to take this deal or not, and they're not met by Charles Xavier, mutant nice guy, he is sent in his place Magneto. And you have to accept it. And they all do.
What are you going to do?
And then at the end, I liked it. At the very end, he's like, all right, so that's the offer on the table. What the offer is not on the table is, that's the offer on the table.
This is not negotiation.
Yeah.
This is what's happening, or it isn't.
Yeah. So a couple of your countries are going to get on board, and you're going to be happy about it. Some of you aren't.
So it's good. It's a good jumping on point for people like myself, who I'm familiar with comics and a general history of the X-Men, one of my favorite franchises. But I haven't read in years. Read regularly in years. So, and that's what they're looking for.
Was it enough to make you want to read more?
I'll read the rest of them.
So, it took the X-Men from being a benevolent underdog force that wasn't loved and respected to having the ability to be a juggernaut that can make its own rules and kind of treat humanity like the speck that it is and would be to such a powerful group. And then they even made sure to, like, that was so good. It's such a good book. The Fantastic Four show up and have an altercation, and Scott Summers, the Cyclops, probably the oldest X-Men from the books besides Xavier, shows up to have a discussion. And it's the Fantastic Four. If mutant kind's going to go to war with somebody, you don't want to pick the FF as your number one. You might want to, you're going to have to line up to deal with them. But, oh man, that was just a good confrontation.
Did you notice how much, sorry Mike, did you notice how much that Reed in that book with the beard and everything looked like a John Krasinski with a beard?
I can see that.
Looked just like him.
Yeah. Are you setting that up?
I think. Well, another thing I read was that Marvel Comics wanted to use this storyline that they're getting ready to start as kind of an intro to the
what they're
going to do in the MCU. So that's also always a possibility too.
Could be cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, time.
What?
Well over.
Oh, we're way over.
Well, thank you everybody for checking out GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cube, founder of the Kokomo Con.
Founder of the Kokomo Con.
today, joined by my oldest friend in the world, Michael Allen Harrison. Don't forget to stop down in downtown Kokomo. Check out Geek Street. From Comics Cube to Kokomo Toys and Collectibles, we've got something for everybody. It's worth a road trip. It's worth your time. So stop on in, check it out. And also, we want to buy your crap.
Well,
come on in and sell it.
Your comics.
Comics, toys, records. If you've got it and you want to sell it, what's the worst that's going to happen? You've got some trading cards. We're going to say no, but who knows?
Sports trading cards.
It's worth bringing it down to at least find out.
Sure.
Check it out. Thanks, everybody. Be groovy.